Well, let's just see, boys and ghouls, what kind of stories are in store for us. Oh, here's one about the Repster. About to do a review, and if you don't watch it, something might happen. What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Repster, where movies and entertainment are our reputation. So Creepshow 2 was released in 1987, was directed by Michael Gornick, and it follows three bone-chilling stories. First one is about an old Indian statue hell-bent on revenge. Second story is about a group of teenagers who goes to this lake where a murderous, hungry Blob awaits. Third story is about a vengeful hitchhiker who refuses to die after being hit. First of all, before I get into this review, I was going to review this. I kind of held myself back because I never really felt like this one was as strong as the first one, which I did review that one some time back. But I never really felt this one was as strong. It wasn't really held up as high to my standards as the first one was. But it wasn't terrible as 3. Please don't get me started on that. So without further ado, let's get into the positives of Creepshow 2. The first and last story was very intriguing. I really loved the whole revenge concept, which is why I've always been partial to characters like the Punisher and most of these action type movies of the 80s and 90s like Commando, Hard to Kill, Out for Justice, and so on. Let's talk about the first story, Old Chief Woodenhead. I thought it was very well executed. Like I said, the whole revenge thing always intrigues me. You know that saying, revenge is a dish best served cold? That's what I definitely got out of this story. So basically, these two shop owners are robbed and killed in cold blood. And then later on, this statue that one of the shop owners has been taking care of and putting more paint on, it's like an old Indian statue. You don't really get to find out that much about it. You don't really get to find out where it came from. All you know is that in context, the guy did say that he's been taking care of the statue for 30 years. So wherever he got it from, I don't know. Maybe some old Indian tribe, which he does kind of commemorate with a little bit in this. But it wasn't from them, though. But anyway, the story goes on. And after all that terrible thing happens, he goes after the people that did that. And I really love that. I really love that concept. So in a way, it was like horror and vengeance. Like Punisher meets a ghost story or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, I really liked it. I really liked the whole execution on how the story ended and how it came to fold. And like I said, payback's a bitch. It just brought plenty of closure, especially after what happened at the beginning. I mean, that was just terrible. And I gotta talk about the hitchhiker, the third story. I like that idea too. I mean, it was kind of the same thing. It was a revenge type story, but they threw in a zombie. And that was like the perfect antidote, the perfect ingredients for, my taste. You got a revenge type story about this woman of ill repute. If she hadn't been messing around with her husband in the first place, all this crap wouldn't have happened in the second place. But she drives home, and then something happens. She's messing around with a cigarette, falls in her lap, and she hits this hitchhiker dead on, kills him. She heads on. It's a hit and run thing, and then he starts coming back for her. And the line he keeps on saying is like, "Thanks for the ride, lady. Thanks for the ride, lady." That really intimidated me. Like the way that they presented that and all that. And it was pretty good. It was a really good story. And like I said, I'm always up for a revenge type story because, she kind of got what she deserved. You got to own up to what you do. And most people out there just don't do that. And that's why I like movies. That's why I like stories like this. Because you never see that actually happen. I know it's a zombie still. They don't exist, but still. And like with the first story, it was very well executed. It was very well done. I like the whole atmosphere to it. The look and feel, and it was perfectly done. And the practical effects were awesome. In the second story, The Raft, you get this blob that's just living in this lake, and just devours people and devours whatever else. And when these kids get there, they go on the raft, and then they get swallowed up. You can see, like, when the practical effects happens, you can see, like, the tar coming up the hand, and then the skin slowly melting. It doesn't really show it in a special effects kind of way. This was pre-digital, but the practical effects look pretty cool. You could actually see, like, the bones and the skeletal structure after the blob is finished with that person, whoever it's eating. But I thought that was pretty cool. As you were being sucked down to the abyss, it looked pretty wicked. It was pretty wicked. And the aforementioned hitchhiker, when he turns into a zombie, especially by the end, wow. Yeah, it was unrecognizable, but that's the type of zombie I'm used to. That's the type of zombie I really like. And a lot of what George A. Romero does, which I think he worked on a little bit on this film along with Stephen King. But yeah, I mean, I love the way they made the hitchhiker look. It was done really well. I loved the way the face looked at the end, especially when he got his definite and final revenge. It looked all mangled after being dragged, punched, mangled, and hit. Yeah. Go figure it would look like that. Like I said, that's the type of zombies I'm used to. Alright, and let's get on to the negatives. The Raft. As far as the story goes, I didn't really think that was the strongest one out there. I never really got that intrigued. As much as I liked the practical effects, when the people got sucked down and the blob was feeding on them, as much as I liked that part of it, I just never really felt that was the strongest. I never really got intimidated by that. Yeah, it was sort of like a creature feature, and I expressed my love for creature features in my past reviews, but I just didn't really feel like they did it justice on this. It just didn't really intrigue me that much. I didn't feel that enticed. I just felt like it was the weakest of the three stories of this film. And speaking of the blob itself, how can I describe it? It looked like a gooey sheet. It's like somebody just put a white sheet or painted a black sheet and put it out in the water and put goo and grass and all this junk and mud on it. That's what it looked like. And I don't know if that had something to do with budgetary reasons or what, but it just did not compare at all to how that awesome movie The Blob was, which came out a year after this film. That film, the way The Blob looked in that film was awesome, but they just didn't really do it justice in this film. And I don't know if that's what they were intending for it. I don't know if it was a cost issue, but I just didn't really get that intimidated by how the blob looked. Like I said, it looked like a sheet. You know, picture this as a sheet, and it just coming at you. Is that intimidating? Really? There just wasn't really that much substance there. And I have to press on some logic issues. Some might argue with me, some might agree with me. But the robbery scene at the beginning and the old Chief Woodenhead story. Okay, when they were getting robbed and they were getting pushed around, the store owners, and they were getting killed, you can clearly see that the statue, the Indian statue, was listening this whole time. He could have done something. I mean, as soon as they exited, after all that dirty deed was done, after they exited and got in their car, or no, after they actually killed him, you could see the old Chief Woodenhead squinting his eyes in anger. So why didn't he do something? Why didn't he get up and just massacre him right then and there? But then again, I guess you wouldn't have a story. But still, it's just, when I see stuff like that, I can't ignore it. It's just something that could have been done that, again, I guess, you know, it just pays off at the end anyway because he goes after him anyway. But still, I mean, he could have done something because he was right out there at the door, and it's not like the door was soundproof. And as far as the Raft story goes, at the end, and this might have something to do with fear, I mean, people does crazy things without realizing it, but he makes it to shore, and only to gloat, only to get at the end of the shore, and he gloats, and the blob still gets him. See, what I would have done is run back to the car, pedal to the metal, and never look back. Oh, and there's a whole issue of the car still running. I think he turned the engine off, but they waited that whole night. I'm not a car expert, but I don't think the car would still be running. I think the battery would probably be dead by then, but it was showing clearly that it was still running. So, yeah. Another logic issues. And in the hitchhiker story, you see the guy get hit by that woman, and she bolts. And then you see all these people, one that calls the police to report the hit and run incident. Another is firing up flares, which ironically enough is played by Stephen King himself, the truck driver. And he puts them all down, and then these other people just comes to assist or to witness or whatever. Well, then later on, it shows the hitchhiker come for this woman. Now, explain to me this. How can a lot of people be standing around a dead guy and not realizing the dead guy getting up and walking off to chase after some other woman that hit him? That just doesn't make sense. Now, people can argue with me that, okay, there was plenty of times where she said, maybe you can't live with this. It's your conscience. I don't think it was her conscience. He was actually after her. It was an actual zombie after her. Otherwise, how would you explain the blood on the car? How would you explain her death at the end with the sign that the guy clearly had when he was hit on her chest? That said Dover or whatever. I guess that was his last name or whatever. How would you explain all that? So again, logic, when I see stuff like that, I just can't ignore it. It just stood out to me like a sore thumb. But yeah, there's going to be police, forensics. It's going to be a whole crime scene. There's like 30, 40 people, I'm guessing, that's usually at a crime scene if it's done right. Yeah, I mean, come on, y'all. And they never explain that. They never explain it. He just gets up and walks away, and I guess the other people is like, oh, okay, so he's alive now. Okay, we can leave. Okay. And the whole animated cartoon concept where in transitions between stories, I never really got into that. I mean, yeah, the first one was sort of similar, but I thought that one was done a little better. I mean, they didn't have no dialogue or nothing. At some point, I felt like I was watching, okay, maybe they were making this for younger kids, even though it was rated R. But I never really got into that. And because of that, the impact of this film was a downgrade. I think it was because of the animation and the transitions between stories, which they could have handled just like they did in the first one. I think that's why it was a big downgrade for me. It just made it look cheesy. Plus, the animation wasn't done right. It didn't feel, it wasn't good. It wasn't really that good of animation. Although I do like the fact that Tom Savini was the creeper. He was the voice, and, you know, at the beginning, they started off as like a real life thing where you actually have Tom Savini dress up as the creeper. But then it just goes downhill, and they had to do it as a cartoon thing, which I don't know why they decided to do that. But anyway, that's like one of the reasons, or one of the few reasons, many of them already laid out, is why this movie was kind of a downgrade as far as the first one goes. Creepshow 2 isn't terrible. Despite its flaws, it still holds up pretty well as a good horror anthology film with plenty of thrills and chills. So enjoy this sweet delight. Creepshow 2, what did you think of it? Did you find it chilling? Did you find it scary enough? Or did you like the first one better and you thought this one sucked? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for watching yet another unprecedented video. And stay tuned for more videos and reviews coming soon. Like, subscribe, and comment if you hadn't already. And I will see you on the next one. Peace, the Rep.